Good morning. It's Playing to Win with me, Mark Henderson Leary, and my good friend Brad Freyer. After our one false start that no one but us knows, and so they say never admit your mistakes on stage, and I don't know. I want to admit my mistake on stage because no one noticed. Definitely, no one noticed because they had no way to see it. Only you and I did. How are you, sir?
I am fantastic, man. How are you?
I'm really, really well.
Did you have a good weekend?
I did.
Why?
What are you suspicious of, man? Why are you coming at me like that?
just want to know why you had a good weekend.
What do you mean why? Why do you challenge that? Why do you challenge that? You don't believe me? You don't believe me? I said I had a good weekend. You should take me at my word.
It seems a little off the way you delivered it. I don't know that it was fine. You may or may not have had a good weekend. I want to know more about this weekend.
I don't like your questioning, your interrogation. I think you should settle it down.
It's just the why question. I just asked why.
Oh, you know what I learned about why?
No, I did not know what you learned about why.
It can come across as interrogative and challenging sometimes.
Interrogative, is that a word? Did you just make that up?
Mm-mm. Learned it in 5th grade. Yeah.
So the why question is
interrogative. It's a question.
Interrogative. So like the why question is the trigger question for you and I guess for others.
Well, no, it's not actually. So obviously that was melodramatic. The point was that I've learned a lot about the question why, and certainly in the work I do with strategy and purpose and all things that go with that, why is an essential question. And if you've ever heard of the 5 whys, have you heard of the 5 whys, Brad?
I have not heard of the 5 whys.
5 whys.
I thought there was one.
Why? The 5 whys is if you're really trying to find the meaning behind something, you would say like, I want to make $1 million. Okay, well, why is that important? Well, because I want to provide for my family. Well, why is that important? Because of this and because of that. And eventually, right around 5, you've dug pretty deeply and you have a sense of foundational why. And so those of us who do a lot of strategic work get really comfortable with this question, why? Mm-hmm. For ourselves and for other people. And then occasionally we get people to blow up and have emotional reactions and we wonder, why? And what I've learned about that is that the why question is really hard. It can be taken as an attack. It can be hard and conceptual. And that sometimes the question what can be a great tactical, tangible way of sort of settling things down. And so, Brad, if instead of being so aggressive with the why, you could have said, what about the weekend? And that would.
I was trying to figure out. I was trying to figure out instead of saying why, what.
What was it? What was it about your weekend that made it so good?
What was it about? Okay, I got that. All right.
Aren't you going to ask me?
Well, now I'm kind of derailed into wanting to talk more about questionings, but I'm confused. I've hit a fork in the road, and I don't know.
Well, man, you're going to have to decide. You're going to have to decide. Yeah. You're a man on your own, and you're going to have to make a decision, and I cannot help you with this.
Can we do both?
Can we?
Can you tell me about your weekend while I practice the what questions?
We can try.
So what was it about the weekend that made it special? Or that made it so enjoyable?
I was at my edge with the family, meaning I was uncomfortable in a place where I was comfortable being uncomfortable. So we went to a 4-wheel off-road park.
Ooh.
In my Jeep, in my relatively new, very expensive feeling. Things were expensive for me, Jeep Gladiator, and so there was places where you can break your vehicle. And so we learned how far I can go. Well, we learned I could go as far as I did, and there was definitely spots where I did not think I could go, and only through the encouragement of people who had done it before me said, "No, you'll be fine." So I had the kids with me, and so they had a blast. We were in the water. It's up the San Jacinto River. And anyway, so it was adrenaline for me to drive my vehicle through these tiny little trails and over these little bridges, and you really need and use the 4-wheel drive capacity of it, honest to goodness. So, and I saw somebody in a Jeep make a very stupid mistake, and we watched them go right into the water and drown their Jeep. And
no,
yeah, for sure, yeah. Like, where are you going? That's not the trail. That is toward the river. That's the river. That's the trail. And they're like, "You following us?" Like, no, that's the river. So we came back later, and they got the winch and they're pulling it back up, but the hood's popped because that's never good when the hood's popped on it. So that all that to say, it was a great weekend of challenge and learning and success because I have got the Jeep stuck before, and that was not fun. But since this time was all success, no stuck, it was a great weekend with the family, totally engaged.
That's fantastic. That is a good weekend.
Yeah.
I'm glad I asked why.
All right.
So let's talk about questions for a second. So we've gone down that fork. Now let's go down the other fork.
Yeah.
So questions. I mean, because obviously questioning is, whether you're a consultant like you or I, somebody who leads teams and helps them discover their whys or their what. I couldn't figure out how to finish the what. I'm actually gonna practice that. Instead of using, because I use why a lot. Well, tell me why. Help me understand why. I'm going to try to.
It's a great question. I've learned to understand. Yeah, using it all the time is great. But I now have one more tool in the toolbox. Like, do I want to make this easier to answer? That's how, when I say, if I want to make this question a little easier for the person to answer, I'm going to down level to a what and make it seem tangible and less introspective and esoteric and all that. So.
Yeah, you got lots of words. By the way, I learned how to pronounce the word Prusia.
Prussia?
Yeah. Anyway, so we were in Fredericksburg this weekend.
Prusia?
I'm reading Prusia. Prusia is what I said. And this guy standing next to me, little did I know it, but a friend of mine heard him as the guy walked away in disgust because I mispronounced. He's like, "Oh, what an idiot. It's Prussia." I'm like, never heard of Prussia.
It's just like Russia with a P, man.
I know that now. I'm into selling, not spelling. So this is I stay in my lane. Yeah. But questions, right? I mean, so I whether you're in consulting, whether you're in leadership, whether you're in sales, whether you're in customer service, whatever questions are the thing that sets people apart, right? Because asking questions.
Keep going back to Prusia.
Well, the history of Fredericksburg. I mean, there was a flood in 1850 in Fredericksburg that drove everybody out, in case you wanted to know. And the Mormons who had settled left Fredericksburg because of the giant flood, and they took their grist mill and sawmills elsewhere.
Mormons were really?
No, they were the first ones to settle in Fredericksburg.
Wow, this is turning into history. This is great.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
And the name Fredericksburg was named after Prince Frederick of Prussia.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it does now that I know how to pronounce Prussia.
Now I've got something to add to my lexicon of Mormon knowledge in addition to the Book of Mormon musical as my authoritative source.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. So the flood of 1850. Who knows? It could have been the next metropolis had it not been for the flood. Much like Galveston. Galveston would have been, the modern day Paris if not for the hurricane of 1900.
Yeah. So, it looks just like it down there. The Galveston is so, they call it the brown coast, right?
Gulf of Yoo-hoo. So, anyhow, so questions. All right, so I'm coming back to this because this is a good topic, and I think it's
and I'm teeing, and I love where you're going because I got a lot of heat behind this. So let's go.
Yeah, because no matter what role you're in, I do believe that you set yourself apart by the questions that you ask. Because when you ask questions, what does that suggest to the other person? It suggests that you care about them. It suggests that you're interested in them. And so whether you're in leadership and sales and customer service, whatever role you're in, even if you're just out with friends, when you're asking questions, you're making the topic and the time focused on the other person, and everybody's favorite topic is themselves. And so when you give someone an opportunity to talk about themselves, they enjoy it, but also you get a lot of value and satisfaction from it because you get to learn about other people, you get to learn about the priorities, and you get to truly have an understanding. And so getting comfortable with questions, right? I mean, as a leader, when you're trying to connect with your team, you can come in and say, "Hey, I'm the boss. Do as I say, not as I, finger wag." Or you can invest time and say, "Well, help me understand. What are you trying to accomplish? What's important to you?" Do the five whys, I guess.
Yeah, it can be for sure. And see, I want to make a comparison there because in selling, if you say, why would you like to do that? That's actually kind of cool in a selling experience, because so often you don't get the opportunity. Just there's some form of question, right? That's like an invitation to say anything at all. And so it can be refreshing in the sales process for if the salesperson does that. However, flip that around to, you're a leader, you're the entrepreneur, when you say, why'd you do that? Are you telling me I screwed up? You're the boss. You sign the checks, and so your words have a lot more heat behind them. And so this is especially important if you're going to ask the why question, because you want to know the why question. I would encourage you to down level, especially if there's a problem going on, if you're trying to manage somebody on your team, if you're a sales leader, or if you're the boss, you're the integrator, the visionary, and you're trying to troubleshoot something. Down level the question and say, what went wrong? What was the first thing we noticed that when we were off track? What would you do differently? And let's use that what and put it into externalize this stuff. It looks like the light bulb went on for you, Brad.
But the what question shouldn't be, what were you thinking? That probably wouldn't be the.
No.
That's not, okay.
Well, honestly, if you, in the right tone of voice, well, what was it that you were thinking?
What were you thinking?
What were you thinking they were going to say? What were you going to think was going to happen next? Is actually better than why did you do that?
Why'd you do that? Yeah. No, that's good. No, I really, because in all of these different roles and functions, not only does it help us have a better understanding, but it also slows us down, right? So if you are in a situation that is somewhat charged, right? Like in a sales call, salespeople, we get very excited, we get very eager because of opportunities, and we see ourselves closing the deal, and so it gets emotionally charged. And questions are a great way to slow the process down and calm yourself, right?
Yeah.
Get into the groove versus trying to think about, okay, how do I sell? How do I pitch? How do I convince? Taking the time to ask the questions. Now, I do believe that having questions prepared in advance is very helpful. Not that you go, question one, question two, like an interrogation, but there might be a question and then a follow-up question or two that you respond to what they tell you. And then there's another question, and then a few follow-ups that are based on responses to what they tell you, right? So, because not only is asking questions important, but listening to the answers is equally critical. Right?
Okay, so let's go there for a second. So there's two ends of the spectrum, and I want people listening to this to understand that you got to know where you're at on this. And so if you're new to a sales role, if you're new to any kind of job, you might need to have a script of 5 critical questions. Or basic questions, or just 5 any questions, so you can have a context for learning, and you might memorize them and work them through. If you're very experienced with questioning, you might go the other way. You might write down 400 new questions all the time. And Cal Fussman, I learned this from. He's an interviewer. I guess it was Rolling. No, it was Esquire magazine, and he interviewed Muhammad Ali and Mikhail Gorbachev. And I asked him, like, what's your go-to question? You're in the elevator. And you see your guy you want to meet, and you got 10. What's the one question you go to? He says, "Man, I got nothing. Here's what is the only thing you can really go on is your observation. You got to see what's going on in the room." And so, to true excellence,
that's a great answer
in questioning is the ability to observe and the preparation. So what he does when he prepares for an amazing interview, he writes down hundreds of questions and memorizes them, and then before the interview, throws it away. He's like, now it's in the back of my mind.
I've got them queued up.
And it's eyes open, ears open. Watch what's going on and ask questions relevant to what's going on, and follow the lead into what is most important. So, but that's not day one basic stuff. Like, don't try that on day one. Day one, get the 5 basics. Like, how many employees do you have, sir? That ask that question first. Otherwise, you're likely to be talking about the sailfish on the wall.
Yeah. Well, and that's especially when you're. I would even say new and into the amateur phase of selling. Yeah. Having those questions prepared, right? Whether it's pain questions, trying to understand what's compelling the action. Whether it's the budget questions, what are they willing and able to invest, or whether it's the decision questions around the who, what, when, where, why, and how their decision making process. Having those questions teed up and on a cheat sheet next to you, so that you know where you're going, right? You've got that roadmap. And so
expert questioning does not substitute process. Like, if you got a process, you got to follow the process.
Absolutely. Because when you have that process, right, when you have those questions teed up, you can be a better listener, right? You can be dialed in and focused in on what the other person is saying, because the problem that most people have, whether it's in their social life or in their professional life, is the people are too often in their own heads. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is that when the other person is talking, too often people are thinking in their head, what am I going to say next? What question am I? What statement? Oh, I got a one up. That's a good story, but I got one.
Even better,
right?
yeah.
Even better. And so, there's a tendency for us to be in our own heads too much. And so, the more prepared we are, the more we've practiced or outlined our question flow, the more we can be dialed into every word the person is saying. So while they're talking, I'm taking notes, right? And I'm listening to every word. And when they finish and there's a pause, I go, oh, great, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then I look down and I see what my next question should be. And as long as it makes sense based on what they've shared with me, or I don't need to ask a follow-up question, hey, tell me more about that. Help me understand. What do you mean? Can you elaborate? As long as I don't need to ask one of those follow-ups, then I can go to my list and, okay, well, my next question is, how's that impacting the organization? Right. And so, but if I have those things prepared, I don't have to be in my head thinking, okay, what's my next question? What's my next? Oh, crap, you just said something important and I missed it. Right.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's a lot of reasons for this. And my mind went right to neediness. If you're needy and somebody tells a story and you want to be validated or you want to connect with that person, that's about you. And so I think that's what drives a lot of salespeople or anybody who's maybe isolated and working too hard. It's like, oh, friend.
Yeah. Please tell you my story.
That's right. And so that's one of the reasons you want process, because if I don't know if you've ever experienced this situation where like you've got a peer group of people who are just friends and colleagues, and then your life changes and suddenly that peer group becomes somebody you're selling to. That's happened to me. And it really changes the dynamic in terms of like suddenly I've my whole engagement with people is different. And so to have, because now my paycheck, now my future economics rely on the conversation. Before I didn't give a damn.
Now you're on the meter. Now
I either like you or I don't. You seem to like me. I seem to like you. Who cares? Talk to you later. And now it's like, okay, if you don't like me in the right way, I don't get paid. Let me think this through. So having a script, having a process is a great way to guide you through that weird, treacherous, emotional, unexpected. I mean, everybody I know who's gone from like, hey, I've got a great network, I'm going to start my new consulting practice and all that, it kind of gets into, hey, my friends aren't calling me back anymore. That's right, because you turn into a sales rep and now you're in the buyer seller dance. And so that's something to work through. So a process is really, really essential to do that. But you got to understand that this questioning is about, and you're showing up as a leader and you're there to help them. So you got to find a way to take care of your needs on your time, and you got to show up ready to observe. And if you got to follow a process to do that, fine. If you got to take clarity breaks to do that, so much the better. If you got to really work on yourself to make sure you're whole, so when you show up, that you can say, hey, I notice you look a little confused. What's up? You can be curious around that, as opposed to, I need something from you, from my employee, from whomever. You will not have that observation. You will be inwardly focused. You will be interdirected, or not indirected. Yeah. Misuse of that.
Well, it's interesting too, because what you just said. How many leaders have you known? I mean, I can think of a couple off the top of my head where they are so eye-centered in their approach to their people that when they do ask a question, their team is always a little bit on guard or suspicious as to why they're asking, because they know it's going to lead towards the path of, hey, here's what I need you to do. Hey, I need something, and so, it is interesting that's
Office Space, right?
Hey, Michael.
Yeah. I'm going to need you to come by on Saturday.
Yeah. And if anybody listening to this hasn't seen Office Space, that's your homework for the week. TPS reports. And really, once again, the best way that you can show that you're invested in someone is to seek to understand, right? And without a preconceived desired outcome, and without prejudgment, but really going in with that blank canvas and just, hey, tell me more. Help, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? What would make you happy?
Not the leading question. Don't question. Why aren't you doing better with this? Why aren't you making more calls? Why don't you just try making 10 more calls?
What if you just made more calls?
I see that visionary leaders, especially, and I harp on this a lot because I think this, it's me, and that's my own. I learn a lot about when people teach and their learning comes from inner work. And as a visionary leader, I always wanted the future to be here fast, and I wouldn't have a passion about this vision if I thought it could wait. And so since it can't, we're already behind schedule, and anything that works in the wrong direction, I want to take 2 steps forward and you're telling me I want to take 1 step back, ain't nobody got time. And so, for example, if I got somebody who's in a role that's wrong for them, rather than possibly admitting that this head of sales might not be destined for head of sales, and what can we backstep into to get somebody else in there, and no, that's the wrong direction. No, I got one more book for you. If once you read this book, you'll start to get what being the head of sales is about. I want to push forward into the future. And so that's that leading, I'm not a good coach. I'm just a bulldozer trying to push somebody into a future. And as a passionate leader, I was pretty good at making it seem like that was possible. And then months and quarters and years later, it's like, I still hate this, man. Or if I'm lucky, if I'm unlucky, I get somebody bouncing out of there. This is really true. I had one guy in particular. He put his notice and bounced and never spoke to me again. Very angry with me for good reason. I led this guy to believe he could do work he was not destined to do, and I deluded myself. I deluded him, and it did no good for him. He was
set up for failure. Yeah.
Absolutely, I absolutely set him up for failure due to my ignorance and my unwillingness to see what was right in front of me.
Yeah, that's brutal. Trying to think about what question to follow that up with.
Well, and I'll give you a minute.
So what did you learn from that experience?
Well, lots and lots.
Specifically around our topic today.
Well, I wasn't a good coach. I was 0% observant, and it was scarcity minded. I had a plan, I had a vision, and I think visionaries like me and a lot of the people I work with really struggle with the time dimension of I have a vision and there is today, and there's a distance between them, and it is measured in time at the very least. And so understanding the steps that one has to go through. And so if I say, hey, you could run this company someday, that dishonors how many decisions and learnings and opportunities to fail and choices that might be on the path between now and there. So understanding that I really could have been much more advantaged by saying, dream big, start small. I don't know. Let's first of all honor it as a dream, the distant future as something that might or might not come true. We might just change our mind on. And then what does the first step look like? And let's measure in the tactics of the first step and ask some real tangible, useful questions about what part of this do you like? What's going well? Is this working? Can we back out of this, as opposed to me just sort of zooming into the future and living there?
Great check-in questions, right? Even right out of the gate, right? There's the daily huddles or the weekly individual meetings, right? Those meetings that are designed to get a status. Right? How are we doing? How are you feeling? What's working? What's not working? What are you struggling with? What keeps you up at night? What do you need help with? And also understanding, not to completely pivot, but sometimes those questions can also help you identify gaps in self-awareness, right? Sure. If you've got an employee and you're asking on a regular basis, hey, what can I do to help you out? Anything I can do to support you? What do you need from me? And they keep saying, nope, I'm good. Nope, I'm good. Nope, I'm good. You've then identified that this person has either low self-awareness, that they don't know what they need from you, and they're unable to identify it. So you have to go in and identify it, or they're uncomfortable asking for help. And in either case, right. You have to, if you have key employees who aren't asking for your help, you have to show up and give help. You have to interject yourself into whatever they're doing so that they're getting the support that everybody needs help. Everybody, right? I mean, even no matter how, I mean, look at the best of the best. Look at well, we're in the middle of the Olympics right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, these are the best athletes in the world, and they still have coaches. They still have people on the sideline saying, "Hey, make sure you get that hand up," right? You know, they're coaching every step of the way, and these are the best of the best. And so, to be ignorant enough to think that you've got people on your team, nope, they're self-sufficient. They're what's the word that people always, they love to work autonomously.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they don't want
self-motivated,
self-driven. They don't want to be micromanaged. The micromanage thing drives me crazy because I'm like, look, you helping someone, you holding people accountable, you knowing what people are doing so that you can support them isn't micromanaging. That's just doing your job, right? And micromanagement has been a way to get people to stop engaging. Hey, I don't need to be micromanaged.
Well, there's a sweet spot.
Well, I'll stop. I don't want to be a micromanager.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So you got to hire good people and get out of their way. Well, if you're a micromanager, yes. If you're an abdicator, then no. So you have to figure out what that right engagement is. And so when I talk about delegation, really try to drive this point home that if you're going to delegate, if you become a leader and a manager, you're going to take something you were doing and give it to somebody else. That does not mean you forget about it. That it's no longer, it doesn't disappear. You now have a new job, and the new job is to observe how somebody else is doing the work that you used to do. Yeah. And it's just like when I hire the lawn company, and I'm no longer pushing a mower. I'm not going to be but I am looking out the window at the lawn, and I am looking at them. Are they doing good work? Are they weeding like I asked? And so I have a job. That's right. I still have a job, and that is to make sure the person I hired is the right person for the job. They appropriately paid for the work they're doing. It didn't just disappear. So micromanagement is bad. Abdication is bad. You have a job, and it is called leadership and management, and you got to do them both.
That might be a topic for another day, micromanagement. So I'm going to put a pin in that one.
Okay, write that down because I will not.
I'm going to write that down. All right. So we've got about 2 minutes. What was the value of today's conversation for you?
What was the value of the conversation for me? Really putting it into words, reinforcing the concept of asking these tangible, easy to understand questions. And for me, I can never get enough reminder that it is dream big and start small to make progress.
I like it. Fantastic. I can't improve upon that, so let's call it a day.
I do have one last question.
Yeah.
Why did you not recognize my new hairstyle and haircut?
Because I'm not wearing my glasses. There it is.
Oh man, I thought the press is going to have a field day. I thought, TMZ's already been blowing up a little bit, and so after a year and a half of COVID length, I couldn't take it.
I forgot what a handsome man you were. I need to wear my glasses more often.
That's right. The glass, funny.
Look at that guy.
Surely, I thought my shiny espresso cup and my new hair. I thought surely there was some content for you.
I did like that because that was very European.
Yeah,
very European.
I don't tee myself up for ridicule very often, and I thought I'd give you several layups.
I'm just so excited to talk to you.
For sure, it was good, man. This is fun. It's super fun. Awesome stuff, and we will pick it up next time. You took good notes, and we will do this next time. This was Playing to Win. We'll see you next time. This is Mark Henderson Leary signing off. See you later, my good friend Brad.